Solutions 2nd edition Upper Intermediate. cd3. Grammar Builder 7.4. Exercise 2. 1.
Charlotte, did you do this? Look, this glass is broken.
Yes, sorry, Mum. I did it while I was washing up.
2.
Simon, please lend me your iPod.
I'm not sure. I might need it.
Oh, please, just this once. I'll take great care of it.
3.
Did you see that? I played brilliantly today. I scored 5 goals.
Oh, listen to you. Anyone would think you were Lionel Messi.
4.
Well done, son. You played really well today.
Thanks, Dad. It was a good match.
5.
Let's go to the cinema this afternoon.
Good idea. What's on?
There's that new comedy with Ashton Kutcher.
6.
Here, have a biscuit with your coffee.
Thanks, but I won't. I need to watch my weight.
7.
Would you like to come to my party next Saturday?
I'd love to. Thank you very much.
8.
Let me help you with that bag. I can carry it for you.
Oh, thanks, but I can manage.
No, really. Let me. It's no trouble.
Lesson 7F. Exercise 6.
Do you think young people should be allowed to stay out late?
I haven't given that a great deal of thought before. I don't have any strong feelings about it, really. There'll be times when it's fine for teenagers to stay out late. Let me see. For example, when they've been invited to a party at a friend's house, and the parents know where he or she is, and they're sure that they won't, I'm not sure how to say it in English, that they won't have problems or be in danger. Having said that, there are often times when it isn't sensible or right for teenagers to be out late. To my mind, it'd be silly to stay out very late when you have school the next day. But then again, I guess it's okay once in a while.
Get ready for your exam 7. Exercise 2. Event 1.
See the latest in contemporary dance, inspired by visual art, being showcased at the Lyceum Theatre this weekend. The brilliant choreographer Michael Clark will present Who's Zoo, his exciting new production, and performances are free for those who apply in time. Admission is by ticket only, which can be acquired online or in person at the theatre. So do take advantage of this rare opportunity to witness an amazing dance premiere at no cost.
Event 2.
When you hear the name Todd Barry, you know you are in for an evening of rare entertainment. This man has appeared on chat shows and stand-up shows too numerous to mention. Take the opportunity to see him live tomorrow for one night only at the Caroline Theatre on Broadway. His quick wit, smart one-liners, and acute observations of everyday life will have you rolling in the aisles. Book tickets in advance at carolines.com. Tickets cost $27 for adults.
Event 3.
Add a little drama and amusement to your life this weekend. Cutting-edge director Daniel Fish highlights the work of the novelist David Foster Wallace in A Supposedly Fun Thing I'll Never Do Again. This highly entertaining dramatic piece gives the author's words to 6 actors in a different way every night. See it this weekend at the Chocolate Factory Theatre in Long Island at 8 p.m. Tickets cost an unbeatable $15. Book online or by telephone on 212-352-3101.
Event 4.
Sign up for a Broadway classic this Saturday. If you haven't seen it before, or even if you have, you will enjoy the devilish and delightful tale of murder, greed, and corruption that is Chicago. Set in this notorious city during the Jazz Age 20s, Chicago keeps the story moving with massive show-stopping song and dance numbers. The original choreography by the brilliant Bob Fosse and the now classic score will hold you spellbound. Join the queue for a ticket. It's worth it.
Event 5.
Go off Broadway for something totally different this weekend. This is not a traditional story-driven production. There isn't even a stage for the performers or seats for the audience. Instead, Fuerza Bruta is a full-on 360-degree experience. The action happens around, above, and among you. The performance is completely non-verbal and uses music, dance, acrobatics, and visual art to excite a whole range of emotions. From humour to suspense to pure exhilarating joy. Book a ticket today from $75.
Unit 8, Lesson 8A, Exercises 3 and 4. 1.
I've absolutely no doubt that global warming is happening and that it's causing the world's climate to change. Just look at the number of irregular weather phenomena in recent years. Hurricanes, storms, floods, drought and so on. It's beyond doubt, to my mind anyway, that it's caused by human activity. It's imperative that we act now to prevent it getting much worse. Governments should invest massively in renewable energy, set up wind farms, tidal barrages and so on. And don't fall into the trap of thinking that nuclear energy is the answer to our problems. Because there's the problem of disposing of the nuclear waste. There are lots of ways to reduce your own carbon footprint too. But to make a real impact on global warming, we have to make radical changes to the way we live. For one, we should travel less. Don't go abroad on holiday. And if you have to travel, avoid flying if you can use a train or coach instead. Second, become a vegetarian. Meat production causes global warming. How? When farm animals digest food, they release vast amounts of methane, which is a very potent greenhouse gas.
2.
I must say I'm a bit of a global warming skeptic. I know I'm in a minority, but I do think people exaggerate the problem. I agree that the Earth is getting warmer, but I'm not 100% sure that human activity is entirely responsible for it. I think there are natural processes at work too. In the past, the Earth has been much hotter and much colder than it is today, and that had nothing to do with us. And anyway, I don't think there's a great deal we can do about global warming. Governments waste huge amounts of money on inefficient renewable energy schemes, like installing wind turbines and solar panels. Of course, we should try to conserve energy and avoid polluting the atmosphere and oceans, but you can't persuade people to change the way they live. Basically, I don't think we should worry too much about climate change. We just have to learn to live with it.
3.
The vast majority of scientists have linked the increase in the Earth's temperature with CO2 emissions, so I guess it must be true. The problem is what to do about it. It's all very well for us in the developed world to say we must cut carbon emissions and rely less on fossil fuels. We've already benefited from centuries of economic growth based on high energy consumption. What about India and China? They are going through a kind of industrial revolution as we did. What right have we to tell them what to do, especially if we don't practice what we preach? I think it's down to each of us to do our bit. Use public transport to get to school and work, insulate our homes, reuse and recycle. Every little bit helps. As for what the government should do, personally, I think the answer is to build more nuclear power stations. We'll have used up all the natural resources like coal, gas and oil by 2100, so I think we'll have no choice anyway.
Lesson 8C, Exercise 1.
Solving the food crisis. Every night, almost 1 billion people go to bed hungry. How can we feed all these undernourished people? Farmers all over the world have to contend with weather, insects and natural disasters, which are capable of destroying crops and ruining years of hard work. And the population is set to rise to 9 billion by 2050. Here are 4 possible solutions. GM crops. Proponents of genetically modified crops, GM crops, claim that they will hugely increase food production. Scientists have developed drought-resistant and disease-resistant crops, more productive crops, and crops with increased vitamins. Anti-GM protesters worry about health risks and damage to other plants that grow near the GM crops. Vertical farming. Another answer could be to grow food in buildings. Advocates of vertical farming are suggesting we construct multi-storey, climate-controlled farm buildings in the heart of our cities. 1 indoor hectare of land would be equivalent to about 5 hectares outdoors, so we could grow year-round crops that would easily feed whole cities. Opponents point to the cost, the increased energy use, and the effect on farmers. Eat less meat. Others say the solution lies not in new technologies, but in eating less meat. It takes about 7 kilos of corn to produce 1 kilo of beef. That quantity of corn will keep more people alive than that quantity of beef. But this is a message the world doesn't want to hear. Meat consumption is rising steeply. Increase aid. Rich countries have far more food than they need and waste vast amounts of it. 6.7 million tonnes a year in the UK alone. We can afford to send surplus food to people who desperately need it. We could also simply give more money to developing countries so they can buy food. Critics say that this makes people dependent on rich countries and is only a short-term solution.
Lesson 8C, Exercises 4 and 5.
Vertical farming isn't actually a very new concept. The idea has existed since at least the 1950s. However, it is only recently that we have begun to seriously explore the idea and put it forward as a solution to the world food crisis. So, what has vertical farming got going for it? At present, over 80% of the world's land that is suitable for farming is already being used. In order to grow enough food to feed the 9 billion people that will be living on our planet in the middle of the 21st century, we'll need 10 million more square kilometres of land. That's an area 20% bigger than Brazil. The buildings used for vertical farming won't take up much space because they are tall. They're skyscrapers. They can be built in the middle of cities where all the people are. The food would be on people's doorsteps, almost literally, so transport costs are minimal. That's great for helping to combat global warming and climate change. Another advantage is that all food could be grown organically. The crops would need less water than traditional ones because all the water is recycled. All the nutrients are recycled too. The only thing that actually leaves the building is the produce, the food. Vertical farming would create jobs too. Imagine the small businesses that would spring up around these farms. For packaging, distribution, catering and so on, they would employ thousands of people. Where is it likely to happen? Who will benefit most from it? First and foremost, countries that don't have agriculture. Cold countries like Greenland and Iceland, and hot desert countries like Saudi Arabia. You would have sealed buildings in these places with an artificial climate, artificially warm in Iceland, artificially cool in a hot country. The social benefits are amazing. Everybody gets good, healthy food. People have reacted really well to this idea. I think the idea is about to develop into reality.
Lesson 8D, Exercise 2.
Space junk. A dangerous mission. A piece of rubbish in outer space has threatened the lives of 6 astronauts, prompting calls for something to be done about the mess we have created around our planet. The 6 astronauts, 3 Russians, 2 Americans, and 1 Japanese, form the crew of the International Space Station, ISS.
They were forced to get to their escape capsules and prepare for an emergency journey back to the Earth. The piece of debris came very near to the station, but fortunately passed by without causing any damage. What a load of rubbish! A Russian official said that only 1/10 of all objects in space are working pieces of equipment. The other 90% is a jungle of junk, leftovers from half a century of human activity in space. There are not only 22,000 large pieces of rocket, shuttle, satellite and Sputnik, but also over 500,000 smaller bits, which are only a few centimetres in size. Surrounding all of these are also millions of tiny particles, for example, flakes of paint that have come off space vehicles. The problem is that all of this stuff is travelling at several kilometres per second. Even the tiniest, almost invisible speck could create a centimetre-deep hole in the side of a rocket or space station, potentially causing a leak. And a larger chunk could possibly destroy it, and any human life on board. A growing problem. Unfortunately, the situation can only get worse. The number of satellites being sent into space is increasing rapidly. In the past 10 years, an average of 76 satellites per year have been launched. And in the next 10 years, the number of satellites will grow by around 50%. The latest analysis of the situation suggests that 1,145 new satellites could be launched during that time, mostly for broadband and satellite phone systems. When satellites become defunct, they stay in low Earth orbit, eventually falling and burning up when they re-enter the Earth's atmosphere, as meteorites do. New satellites will have to be built to new standards, so that when they reach the end of their useful life, they will have enough energy left to travel back immediately into our atmosphere to burn up. At the moment, 80% of all space junk is around 1,200 miles above the Earth, which is called low Earth orbit. Spacecraft have to orbit lower than this to avoid all the debris, and satellite companies have to navigate a way through the junk to place their equipment. And we're not safe down here either. Unfortunately, not all space junk burns up while re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. On average, one object a day survives re-entry. An American woman in Oklahoma was knocked down in January 1997 when she was struck by a lump of metal. Fortunately, she wasn't injured. The weight was comparable to an empty soda can, the woman said. It was identified as debris from a rocket. Other parts of the rocket, including a steel tank and a titanium sphere, fortunately landed without causing any harm. The biggest bit of rubbish to date. However, in the world of space litter, the biggest piece of junk would have to be Mir, the Russian space station, which is the heaviest object ever to orbit the Earth, apart from the Moon. The 15-year-old station began heading downwards on the 23rd of March 2001, and a month later re-entered the Earth's atmosphere over the Pacific Ocean near Fiji. Though most of the station, weighing 130,000 kilograms, burned up in the atmosphere, about 1,500 fragments reached the Earth's surface. Holidaymakers on beaches in Fiji took photos of little bits of burning debris as they whizzed noisily through the sky above them. Fortunately, most of them landed in the sea. Time to clean up the sky. Occasionally, debris collides with other debris, creating thousands more tiny pieces of space junk. So far, it is thought that there have been few such collisions. But what is feared is a kind of chain reaction, with debris fragmenting and going on to collide with other debris, creating a cloud of rubbish that would make it impossible for us to use the low Earth orbit around our planet at all. Some scientists think they might have come up with a solution to the problem of space junk. They want to put big cleaning robots into the sky. In effect, satellites which are able to locate and maneuver alongside large pieces of space junk. These satellites then attach a device to the debris, which pushes it into the Earth's atmosphere, where it burns up. The scientists say that each robot could safely remove up to 10 objects a year. This would go some way to improving the situation, as long as collisions between debris do not increase in the meantime. Whatever the solution to the problem, experts all agree that something needs to be done to tidy up space sooner rather than later.
Lesson 8F, Exercise 2.
I think the best poster for encouraging people to recycle would be the third one. The reason I go for that one is that it's quite serious. What's more, it gives a lot of information about what exactly can be recycled, different metals and so on. That's very useful information. I wouldn't choose the first poster because it doesn't give very much information. And I also think it looks rather boring. It wouldn't appeal to teenagers of my age. Moving on to poster 2. I don't think poster 2 is a good choice because it isn't serious enough. So, to sum up, I'd go for the third poster because it would have a greater impact and be more effective.
Lesson 8F, Exercises 5 and 6.
What can be done to improve the environment where you live?
Well, I live in a big city, and I do think they should ban cars from the centre. That would be a really good move. Why do I think that? Well, first of all, it would improve the air quality a lot. Let me give you an example. When I go to school in the morning, the exhaust fumes from all the cars are awful. You can hardly breathe. On top of that, banning cars would make the streets a lot safer. At the moment, I daren't cycle to school because it's too dangerous. But if there were fewer cars on the streets, I would cycle. Another thing they could do is plant more trees. They could plant them in the main square, for example. The main reason is that they would make the city look nicer. But another reason is that we really do need more trees in the world because they absorb carbon dioxide and so help stop global warming.
Lesson 8F, Exercise 8. 1.
We've got bins for recycling paper, but we do need to recycle glass too.
2.
I'm all for cutting our carbon footprint, but I do think the government should come up with some better ideas.
3.
We didn't install double glazing, but we did insulate the loft.
4.
It isn't easy to save energy, but we do have to try.
5.
The government didn't cut carbon emissions, but it did promise to invest in renewable energy.
Skills Roundup, 1 to 8. Exercises 4 and 5.
Hi, Spiky. How are you?
What do you want?
Is Daisy there?
No, she isn't.
Who is it, Spiky?
It's Stefan. I'll have a word with him. She doesn't want to see you.
Oh. Why not?
You know.
No, I don't.
Why did you inform them about our plan?
What do you mean? What plan?
The cyber attack. On the supermarket website, they knew all about it. Somebody had told them how we were going to do it, the exact time, everything. You must have warned them.
Me? Why are you accusing me of doing it?
We hadn't mentioned it to anyone else. It must have been you.
But I promised Daisy I wouldn't say anything, and I didn't. I didn't even mention...
A week later, in Stefan's office.
Stefan speaking.
Hi, Stefan. It's Daisy.
Daisy. Good to hear from you. How are you doing?
I'm fine. And I just want to say, I believed you when you said you hadn't told anyone about the cyber attack.
Thanks. Spiky didn't believe me, though. Did he?
No, I'm afraid not. I've tried to convince him that you aren't like that, but, well, you aren't exactly his favourite person anyway.
I know.
Look, are you going to be at a charity event tonight? I think you mentioned that your company were supporters of Feed the Millions?
Yes. The event at the Regal Hotel. I'll be there. Why?
Well, I'm going to be there too.
Really? Why? I mean, good. I'm glad. But why?
I'll explain later. I just wanted to know there would be a friendly face. See you later.
Yes. See you later.
Hi, Stefan.
Daisy. Good to see you.
Thanks. How's it going?
Fine, I think. But you didn't tell me why you were coming.
Oh, I'm meeting my dad here. His supermarket, Wesley's Supermarket, are big sponsors of Feed the Millions. That's why he's here.
Your dad? But you said you didn't get on with him.
We're still in touch. I like to see him sometimes, but he won't come to the squat, and I don't like going home too often.
You still call it home, though?
I guess.
Does Spiky know you're here?
No, he doesn't. I'm not sure he'd be too happy about it. He said I should stay away from you.
It's a good cause, though, isn't it? Feeding hungry children in Africa?
Yes, but the charity is sponsored by Wesley's, and they're the big enemy.
And I am too, I think.
Well, he still blames you for the failed cyber attack.
That was nothing to do with me. I couldn't have passed on any details. I didn't know any details.
Okay, I believe you. But just to be on the safe side, I won't tell you about our next big protest, which is going to be even better.
Really? Give me a clue.
Actually, I can't. I don't know what it's going to be exactly. They haven't told me the plan. I just know when and where it's going to happen.
All right.
Actually, if you're interested, you can see it all with your own eyes on Saturday.
How? You're being very mysterious.
Meet me outside the squat next Saturday at midday. You won't regret it, I promise.
Okay. Okay. I'll meet you outside the squat at midday.
Next Saturday. See you then.
Great. Now, I really should go and talk to some of the other guests. Sir Roger! Nice to see you. Have you come far?
No.
Unit 9, Lesson 9A, Exercises 3 and 4. 1.
So, I had this ticket to go and see Lady Gaga performing live, and I mentioned it to my cousin Claire. It turned out she just loves Lady Gaga. She's her favourite singer. She tried to book a ticket for herself, but they were sold out. So I gave her my ticket. Well, I do like Lady Gaga, but I wouldn't say I'm her biggest fan. And Claire was really grateful, so that was nice.
2.
I've been chief executive of the company for 3 years now. When I arrived, there was a lot of work to do. Some of the employees just weren't trying. So I called everyone into a meeting and told them that half of them were going to lose their jobs, and I was going to make that decision after 4 weeks, so they better impress me. They did work harder after that, and 4 weeks later, the 50% who weren't performing as well as the others lost their jobs.
3.
I bought him as a puppy when he was only a few weeks old. I really wanted a dog. I know I live in a small flat, but I love pets, dogs especially. Well, what I didn't think about was how big that puppy was going to grow. He's huge. Look at him. Yes, we are talking about you, aren't we? Anyway, he's wrecked the flat, of course. It isn't his fault. He's just too big. I didn't think about that when I got him.
4.
I got so angry with my dad last week.
I can't remember why. I think he told me not to spend so much time on the computer. Anyway, I was cross. So do you know what I did? When he went to work, I went outside and dug up all the roses in his flower bed. He loves his roses. He loves them more than he loves his children. That's what I think sometimes. So I dug them up. He went crazy when he found out.
5.
My parents gave me the name Edward, which is okay. Lots of people my age are called Edward, but I don't like being the same as lots of people, so I decided to change my name. I changed it to Eduardo. It's similar to Edward, but it's got more style. It's more exotic, more interesting, more exciting. I think it's a better reflection of my personality. Eduardo. Sounds good, doesn't it? I've started wearing sunglasses a lot more too.
6.
I wanted to get something special for my boyfriend last Valentine's Day, but I didn't have any money to buy a present. I thought about it for a while, and then I decided to write a song for him. I'm quite musical. So, anyway, I wrote it, and then I recorded it on my computer, singing and playing the guitar. I gave it to him on a CD. He loved it. Well, he said he did.
Lesson 9B. Exercise 1.
You shouldn't have invited Ava to your party. I only split up with her 2 weeks ago. I didn't want to see her again so soon.
But you know she's a close friend of mine. I didn't want to take sides. I had to invite both of you.
But you could have told me she was coming.
She asked me not to. Oh, maybe it was a mistake, but I promised her that I wouldn't tell you.
Well, you might have given me a hint. If you'd warned me, I'd have stayed at home.
But it was nice to see her, wasn't it? I mean, you got on fine. You needn't have been so worried about seeing her.
True, but still, you should have warned me.
Lesson 9C. Exercise 2.
Parents of boys at a Sydney private school have been urged to monitor their son's use of Facebook, with a warning that any mistakes made in teenage years could be permanently recorded on the internet and catch up with them later in life. The headmaster, Timothy Wright, wrote to parents on Thursday, explaining that younger boys were too immature to fully gauge the possible consequences of disclosing private information on social networking sites. We now know that those parts of the brain that deal with decision-making are still developing in a man in his 20s, he said. But mistakes made at 15 may be still retrievable by an employer 10 years later. Modern technology means that a careless word, a slanderous comment, or an inappropriate photograph are on permanent record and freely available to anyone who has access. Stupidities that were once forgotten now last, spread, and damage in ways unknown before this decade. Dr. Wright said that harsh words spoken in the playground could be more easily forgotten, but those captured on the internet or on mobile phone text messages could have far more lasting and more hurtful consequences. He said there was widespread use of Facebook by students, including those of primary school age, which was against the site's guidelines for use. He urged parents to set ground rules for use of mobile phones and the internet, and in particular to set boundaries on taking and sending images that may be used to bully others. Parents who are paying for the internet service have an unquestionable right to insist they are a friend on Facebook. I would certainly insist on this until at least the end of Year 10, if not later, he wrote.
Lesson 9C. Exercises 5 and 6.
It was a classmate who first told Rebecca Black about a company called Arc Music Factory. For a fee of $4,000, you could have a song recorded, complete with music video. The company even provided the music and lyrics. For Rebecca, who was a 13-year-old student with a passion for music and drama, it seemed like a fantastic opportunity. Her mother agreed to pay the $4,000, and Rebecca recorded a song called Friday. As soon as the music video was ready, Rebecca uploaded it to YouTube. In the first month, a few hundred people watched it. But nothing could prepare her for what would happen next. Thanks to a few mentions on the social networking service Twitter, the video went viral. Within 3 months, more than 167 million people had viewed the video, and more than 3 million of those viewers clicked dislike, the most negative reaction a video on YouTube had ever received. The record was previously held by Justin Bieber's song Baby. Rebecca Black's single was suddenly famous all around the world for being the worst song in the world ever. Black told the Daily Beast website that the negative attention the song received shocked and hurt her. She appeared on The Tonight Show on American TV and reiterated the idea, saying she cried when she first read the negative comments on her video. So was it a mistake to put it on YouTube, where it's so easy for people to make unkind comments, sometimes just for fun? The song was removed in June, 4 months after first being posted, partly because of all the negative publicity it was creating. After all, Rebecca was still just a young teenager about to turn 14. How could she cope with negative feedback from 3 million people? But there's an old saying in show business that there's no such thing as bad publicity. Suddenly, Rebecca Black was famous, and people at the top of the music business wanted to meet her. Simon Cowell, music boss and inventor of the X Factor and other talent shows, said, "Whatever she's done has worked. Whether you like her or not, she's the most talked about artist in America right now." She put the video of Friday back on YouTube, and the song entered the music charts in 6 different countries. Since then, she has formed her own record company, released an album, appeared in one of Katy Perry's music videos, and travelled to Australia to promote a mobile phone network. Some people think it was a mistake for Rebecca to put Friday on YouTube because it received such negative and hurtful comments. But in reality, that mistake has given her a chance of success. Whether she makes the most of it or not is up to her.
Lesson 9D, Exercise 2.
Hospital mix-up. 2 Russian families are united by a terrible event that took place more than a decade ago. Their newborn daughters were accidentally mixed up in the maternity hospital and grew up with the wrong parents. In a tiny flat in the Ural Mountains, Ulya Belaeva and her 12-year-old daughter Irina are looking through family photos. One of the pictures shows Irina as a newborn baby wrapped in a blanket. It was taken the day mother and daughter left hospital. But 12 years on, Ulya Belaeva has discovered that the baby she'd taken home, the daughter she'd thought she'd given birth to, is not her child. "I found this out when my ex-husband refused to pay maintenance," says Ulya. "I took him to court to prove that he was Irina's father. We did all the DNA tests, but the results were a total surprise. Not only does my ex-husband have no biological link to Irina, neither do I." Police believe that on the 17th of December 1998, there was a terrible mix-up at the local maternity hospital. 2 babies were given the wrong name tags and the wrong parents. "At first I thought it was a joke," recalls Ulya. "Then I couldn't stop crying. My whole world had turned upside down. I kept worrying what Irina would say, and I kept thinking about my real daughter. Maybe she'd been abandoned or put in an orphanage, or perhaps she was begging on the streets." Desperate to find her, Ulya went to the police, and they launched a search for her biological daughter. Within weeks, they had found her. In a village half an hour's drive from Ulya Belaeva's flat lives 12-year-old Anya Iskandarova. In a meadow opposite her house, she shows me her favourite cow, April. Anya is the girl Ulya had given birth to. She is the spitting image of her biological mother. In the house is Naimat Iskanderov, the man Anya thought was her father. Naimat is from Tajikistan. He had married a Russian woman, but they had divorced. It was Naimat who brought up Anya and his other children as devout Muslims. When police told him about the mistake at the maternity hospital and that Anya was not his daughter, to begin with, he refused to believe it. Then the detective showed me a photo of the other girl, Irina, the one they said was my real daughter, Naimat tells me. When I saw her face, it was like seeing myself. My arms and legs began shaking. It was awful to think that my child had grown up with another family and that I had brought up someone else's daughter. The two families meet regularly now, but the parents admit there is tension between them. It is difficult, concedes Naimat. One family is Christian, the other is Muslim. We have different traditions. What I fear most is that the daughter I've raised will start going drinking in bars, that she will stop praying and working. I'm worried she will lose her religion. There is tension between the adults, says Ulya. Naimat doesn't like some things that go on in our family. I don't like some things in their home. Both of us are used to life as it has been, not as it is now. Now it is a nightmare. More than anything, Ulya fears that both children will desert her. She can see that the daughter she brought up is keen to spend time now with her biological father, and the child she actually gave birth to is like a stranger. I try to show Anya motherly love, Ulya says, but she doesn't accept it. She's been brought up differently. She's not used to tenderness. We don't really understand each other. When your own daughter looks at you like a stranger, that's so painful. Both families are suing the Kopyesk maternity hospital for more than $300,000 in damages. Its chief doctor went on Russian TV to apologize for the mistake, but argued the hospital could not afford to settle such a claim. Prosecutors are considering bringing criminal charges against the hospital staff responsible for the mix-up, although that seems unlikely considering so many years have passed. For now, the two girls say they do not want to swap parents. They are just glad to have found each other. To begin with, we were a bit shy, Irina tells me, but now we've become the best of friends. What I'd like, says Anya, is for all of us to live in one big house. Irina and Anya were born 15 minutes apart. Now the truth about what happened in hospital has brought them together.
Lesson 9E, Exercise 2.
Mistakes are the portals for discovery, wrote the Irish novelist James Joyce, and it's true that certain mistakes in history have turned out to be lucky for the people who made them. Many familiar items would not exist if their inventors hadn't made lucky mistakes. In 1886, a pharmacist's assistant used fizzy water by mistake to mix a new medicine. The result? Coca-Cola. Around 1940, a scientist called Dr. Percy Spencer was doing military research with microwaves when he discovered that a chocolate bar in his pocket had melted. As a result, he realized that microwave radiation could be used for cooking. If he hadn't had that candy bar, microwave ovens probably wouldn't exist today. Perhaps the most important accidental discovery was penicillin. If today's doctors didn't have penicillin and other antibiotics, many of the students in your class wouldn't have survived childhood. We have Alexander Fleming to thank for its discovery. Back in 1928, he noticed the drug when it grew by accident in his messy laboratory. This proves another interesting fact. If scientists were always tidy and well organized, they wouldn't have made some of the most important discoveries in history.
Lesson 9F, Exercises 2 and 3.
So, you've got an item you didn't pay for?
Yes, this scarf.
Oh, right.
So, why is it in your bag? Why didn't you pay for it?
I didn't know it was there. My phone rang when I was in the shop. Do you remember?
Oh, yes.
I think the scarf was in my hand. I probably dropped it into my bag while I was looking for my phone. I wish I hadn't answered it. It was only my brother.
Yes. Oh, well, it's only a scarf, I guess. They aren't so expensive.
I know, but I shouldn't have put it in my bag. Basically, I just wasn't thinking. I feel really guilty about it.
So, what do you want to do?
I think I should take it back to the shop.
Really? But you might get into trouble for stealing.
I doubt it. I'll just give back the scarf and explain what happened.
OK, good idea. What's that in your bag? I don't think you paid for it.
It's a sweatshirt. It's from that place in the station. Do you remember?
Oh, yes. With the loud music.
Yes, that's right.
So, what happened?
Well, I was looking at a few sweatshirts, and then you asked me if I had your ticket. So I started looking for the train tickets in my bag. I must have dropped the sweatshirt in then.
I see. So, how do you feel about it now?
Annoyed, really. I'm going to have to send it back.
Really?
Yes. I can't keep it, can I? I'll post it. It's easier than going back to the shop, and less embarrassing.
Yes, I see.
Get ready for your exam 9. Exercise 2.
Last summer, our family excitedly set off on holiday. My parents had never booked such an expensive holiday before, and we had certainly never set foot on a Caribbean island. So it was with eager anticipation that we arrived at the airport with our 5 suitcases, only to be told that our Unity Airlines flight had been cancelled. We hung around the airport despondently until we were rerouted onto a Sky Eagle flight, but we still missed our connecting flight. So they put us onto another flight to JFK Airport, this time with Amiga Airlines, and we had to dash like mad through the airport to catch the plane with minutes to spare. From JFK, we boarded our final flight, and it was with some relief that we arrived in St. Martin Island, ready to forget the stresses and strains of actually getting there. However, one vital thing hadn't kept up with us: our luggage. The laid-back officials in St. Martin Airport didn't seem particularly worried about our missing bags. They phoned Amiga Airlines, who blamed Sky Eagle, because they said that the first flight was responsible for the luggage. Sky Eagle blamed Amiga, and they all blamed Unity Airlines for cancelling the original flight. Meanwhile, through all the accusations, we only had the clothes we stood up in. So Mum took us on a quick shopping trip and bought toothbrushes, swimming stuff, shorts, flip-flops, and a couple of t-shirts each. For 2 days we waited in St. Martin until we joined our 5-day cruise. Dad went to the airport twice a day, but each time the baggage staff said nothing had arrived. So we had to go on the cruise without our luggage. My brother, sister and I weren't much bothered, but our parents were. Dad missed his diving equipment, and Mum was upset about not being able to wear her new summer wardrobe bought especially for our big holiday. The cruise was fantastic anyway, even though we had to keep washing our few clothes. When we got back to the airport to go home, there was a new set of baggage staff who didn't seem to know anything about anything. My dad was so frustrated by this time, he actually sneaked into the storage room and found 4 of our bags. If he hadn't done that, they might still be sitting there. He just dragged them out without telling anybody, and we went home. When we arrived back in the States, we found our last bag.
It hadn't even left the airport. My poor mum and dad are still trying to get some compensation from the airlines.
Unit 10, Lesson 10A, Exercises 5 and 6. 1.
It was so funny. Every time the referee blew his whistle, this dog ran on. Nobody knew whose dog it was. And when one of the linesmen tried to catch it, he dropped his flag. The dog picked it up and ran. It took ages to catch it. One of the spectators got hold of it in the end. Somebody found a piece of rope and tied the dog to the back of the goal. It didn't seem to mind. It had a great view of the match, I suppose. In fact, I think the goalie got quite fond of it and took it home at the end of the game. I suppose that's the kind of thing that happens in amateur games. You don't see it in the Champions League, do you?
2.
It was on TV last night. Did you see it? This golfer was about to play his shot. He was holding the club, getting ready to swing. I think it was the final hole or something. Really important anyway. And there's a small crowd of people near him, all silent so he can concentrate. And just as he plays his shot, some guy sneezes really loudly. I mean really loudly, like an explosion. It completely put the player off and his ball shot off into the trees. He was so angry. But what can you do?
3.
Did I tell you what happened last night at the sports centre? They were having a swimming gala with competitors in all different age groups. There was one race that was very close, and something happened just as the swimmers got to the end. I couldn't see what it was. Maybe one of them kicked the other one under the water. Anyway, the swimmer who won the race, she can't have been any older than 14, was furious with the girl in the next lane. She reached across, pulled her goggles away from her face, and then let go. They snapped back and the girl screamed. It must have hurt. Mind you, it looked like something you'd see in a comedy film. She was trying to pull the other girl's swimming cap off when the officials came over and stopped it.
4.
It was the third set and they'd been playing for over 2 hours when one of the players, he was Serbian I think, played a really terrible shot straight into the net. The player ran all the way to where the spectators were sitting and handed his racket to a young boy. "You play," he said. "I'm rubbish." The boy didn't know what to do. At first, he stood up and looked as if he was going to play a few points. But then the player took his racket back and laughed, and the boy sat down. I wish the boy had actually played a few shots. It would have been even funnier.
5.
It was quite near the end of the game, and one team was winning 6-2. There was an argument between two players at one end. The referee didn't see it because the puck was right at the other end. But some of the other players saw and skated over. At first, I thought they were going to stop the argument, but instead they joined in. The whole thing became a massive fight. At least they didn't use their sticks, just their hands. Actually, it was a bit more interesting to watch than the match itself, which was a bit boring.
Lesson 10C, Exercise 3.
The top 10 sports stars in the world, from disciplines as diverse as tennis, golf, racing and football, all earn more than $30 million a year. Much of this is from endorsements rather than prize money or salary, with the result that the biggest names can continue earning huge sums even after their retirement from the sport. A previous England football manager, Fabio Capello, believed that the players' high earnings had a negative effect on discipline. They are young players, young boys, rich boys, and this is the problem, he said. Basically, it was impossible for young players to have the right work ethic and attitude when they were already rich beyond their childhood dreams. And one of the most famous footballers of recent years, David Beckham, agrees with him. In his view, young sportspeople need to be hungry for achievement, and too much money kills that hunger. You want that hunger there. You want the hunger to be rewarded. Unfortunately, that's not the case these days. They can all afford to buy their own cars. Mind you, if it's taken you 5 minutes to read this article, Beckham himself has earned more than $1,000 since you began it. It isn't only the players who are affected by commercialism. The top few clubs in all the most popular sports are now big businesses with multi-million-dollar sponsorship and TV deals. Since this allows them to buy and keep the best players, their position at the top becomes unassailable. But how long can a sport survive when there is no real competition?
Lesson 10C. Exercises 6 and 7. 1.
Some people say sports stars are overpaid, but how can you really say that? I mean, who decides what people deserve to earn? It's all just a matter of opinion, isn't it? The fact is, sport generates a lot of money because of TV rights as well as ticket sales. So the best players are worth a lot to their clubs, and they can afford to pay them big salaries. So basically, why shouldn't they? It doesn't make economic sense to pay them any less. They just go to a different club. It's called competition.
2.
Personally, I think it's ridiculous that you can earn millions just for kicking a ball around, throwing it through a hoop or hitting it with a stick. I mean, think of all the really worthwhile jobs that people do. Doctors, nurses, teachers. And ask yourself why a golfer should earn 20 times more than they do. If you ask me, it's completely crazy. People's income should reflect how much they contribute to society, how many people they help, that kind of thing.
3.
From all the fuss about it, you'd think footballers were the only people who earned a lot of money. What about bankers, property developers, chief executives? Some of these people earn even more. The way I look at it, sports stars deserve their money because they've got real talent. We've all tried to play tennis or golf or football. We know how difficult it is. These men and women are the best. To my way of thinking, they deserve their high salaries. And remember, they don't have very long careers. Sometimes they're finished by the time they get into their early 30s.
4.
I don't mind them earning a decent amount of money. There's no doubt about it. They do have to train hard. But millions? That's completely unnecessary. There are people all over the world who don't even have enough money for food. And yet the top footballers, for example, are paid thousands of pounds a day. It's obscene, really. The way I see it, nobody should earn thousands a day when people around them are starving. That kind of inequality is just plain wrong.
5.
I don't understand why people moan about how much money sports stars earn. Why does it matter? They do a good job. They entertain us, don't they? Let's face it, it's envy, isn't it? That's why people complain. Basically, they just want all those things the sports stars have got, but they haven't. The fast cars, the lifestyle. The bottom line is, these people are massive global celebrities. So of course they're going to earn big money, just like film stars and pop stars.
Lesson 10D. Exercise 2. Getting ahead. Professional sports people will go to extraordinary lengths to gain an edge over their rivals. Increasingly, this means using a bizarre selection of performance-enhancing tools to boost their speed, strength, and stamina. But for those who want to emulate the pros and boost their performance, what really works? 1. Cashew nuts.
Kelly Holmes, Britain's double Olympic gold medalist, said cashew nuts were her secret weapon in warding off fatigue at the Athens Olympics. "Cashew nuts are my little secret," she said, adding that they helped to boost her powers of recovery so she was fully primed for her next race. A 50-gram serving of cashews provides 1/5 of a woman's daily iron requirements and around 1/10 of a man's zinc needs.
Expert verdict.
All nuts are a rich source of dietary protein needed to enhance the recovery process of muscles after intense activity, says Jeanette Crosland, consultant dietitian to the British Olympic Association. Nuts also provide carbohydrate and essential minerals, including potassium lost in sweat, which makes them a very useful post-exercise snack.
2. Ice baths.
Taking a dip in a bathtub filled with ice-cold water is among the most fashionable therapies in sports at the moment. Believed to alleviate muscle soreness and tissue swelling that occur after hard exercise, it speeds up recovery. Some England rugby players have taken the obsession to extremes by visiting a cryotherapy chamber, essentially a human deep freeze, at an Olympic training centre in Poland. They spend 4 minutes shivering at minus 120 to 160 degrees Celsius.
Expert verdict.
Ice obviously cools the area it is applied to. Once the body senses the drop in temperature, it sends more blood to the area, which boosts circulation and speeds up healing, says sports physiotherapist Jill Hendry. Sometimes tiny tears occur to muscle fibres and ligaments after a hard workout, and ice can help to heal them.
3. Fancy contact lenses.
Developed over 8 years, the MaxSight contact lens is designed specifically to improve the sharpness of an athlete's vision. The lenses are currently being tested by AC Milan players and use what the developers call light architecture optics to filter specific wavelengths of light in order to enhance key visual elements, such as a ball, at the same time as reducing sun glare. A vision consultant developed amber lenses for tennis, football and rugby, or grey for running, cricket and golf, which, according to the marketing literature, makes the eye look competitive, i.e., freaks out your opponents.
Expert verdict.
They have been approved by America's Food and Drug Administration for daily wear to correct short and long-sightedness. They could offer an advantage over normal lenses for sport by reducing the glare of light and sun, says Louise Sutton, Principal Lecturer in Health and Exercise Science at Leeds Metropolitan University.
4. Nasal strips.
They look like sticking plasters and were developed to help people with health problems like excessive snoring. But in recent years, Breathe Right nasal strips have gained in popularity among sportspeople who believe that they improve airflow through the nose and into the lungs. They can often be seen worn by professional footballers and other athletes.
Expert verdict.
Although we breathe mainly through our nose when resting, during exercise, when we begin breathing harder, the air coming in is predominantly supplied via the mouth, says Sutton. It may improve airflow through the nasal passages, but there is no evidence that it reaches the lungs and boosts performance.
5. Low oxygen tent.
Exposure to thin, mountain air has long been known to benefit competitors in endurance events like cycling, running and triathlons because it helps the body to adapt to using oxygen more efficiently. A 5-year study by the US Olympic Committee confirmed that people who live at high altitude and train for sport at low altitude perform better. Manufacturers have now developed hypoxic, low oxygen, tents to simulate this effect.
Expert verdict.
Stephen Day, an exercise physiologist at Staffordshire University, carried out tests on elite runners to see how effective sleeping in a low-oxygen tent can be. We assessed numerous parameters and found that one elite athlete's aerobic capacity improved by a massive 30% during several months of sleeping in a low-oxygen tent, he says.
Lesson 10F. Exercises 2 and 3. Candidate 1.
The man in the centre of the photo seems to be enjoying the exercise class. I guess it's an exercise class in a gym. He appears relaxed and doesn't look too tired. All the people in the class are wearing t-shirts or vest tops and shorts or leggings because I guess the class is hard work, physically. It looks like most of them are men, except for the woman in the blue top. But I'm not completely sure. Their faces are out of focus. They're all holding weights. The instructor is out of shot, but there must be one there because they're all doing the same thing at the same time.
Candidate 2.
This photo shows an exercise class, most likely at a gym. It's quite busy. We can see maybe 7 people in the photo, but there are probably more in the class, and they're standing in rows. I can just make out a few more faces in the background. I can also see a mirror, I think, although it isn't clear. They're wearing sports clothes, shorts, vest tops, and t-shirts. Everyone in the photo is holding weights. They look quite heavy. The man in the centre of the photo looks relaxed and focused, and I think the woman behind him is calm too, although her face is partly hidden. The other people in the photo look as though they're concentrating, although the man with the blue t-shirt could be looking out of the window. I'm not sure because his face is blurred.
Lesson 10F. Exercise 5. Candidate 1.
I think the people are using weights because they aren't just trying to get fit. They also want to get stronger muscles. It can be quite boring doing weight training by yourself in the gym, so this is a great way of getting stronger and having fun at the same time. You can see that it works because all the people in the photo have big muscles in their arms. Their biceps look really strong.
Lesson 10F. Exercises 6 and 7. Candidate 1.
I think it's important to be quite fit, yes. First and foremost, being fit makes it more likely that you'll live to an old age and won't have problems with your heart. Secondly, if you're fit, you can do more things without getting tired. For example, you can play sports. Even day-to-day things like running for a bus are easier if you're fit. And thirdly, people look better when they're fit, slimmer and healthier. And this is good for confidence. I'd even say that fit people are happier than unfit people. So, all in all, yes, it's important to be fit.
Candidate 2.
I don't think it's particularly important to be fit. For a start, there's a difference between being fit and being healthy. Sure, good health is important, but unless you're a professional sports person, I don't think you need to be extra fit. Also, let's not forget that fitness is a big industry. They want you to think it's essential to be super fit, but basically, they're just trying to sell you their kit, their sports drinks, their clothes and so on. And most importantly, I think people should worry less about their body and more about their mind. Don't go to an aerobics class. Read a book. That would be my advice.
Lesson 10F. Exercise 8. Candidate 2.
I recently took part in a 5-kilometre run for charity. It's not the kind of thing I'd normally do, but I did it with a group of friends who really wanted me to take part. They were school friends, so I said yes. I'm not very fit, so the run itself was really hard work for me. In fact, I stopped halfway and sat down. I was feeling really miserable, But then, when I stood up, some of the spectators started cheering me, and that gave me the strength to finish the course. Looking back, I feel really proud of myself for finishing it. The run took place in a large park near the edge of town. It happened about, 6 months ago, I suppose. Yes, it was last summer.
Skills Roundup, 1 to 10. Exercises 5 and 6. Part 1.
Great! You're on time.
Of course. I can't wait to find out what's going on.
You'll soon see. But first, we have to get the Underground to Southfield Station. Come on.
Southfields? I've never heard of it. Hey, hold on. Wait for me.
Part 2.
So, what do you think of Wimbledon?
It's fantastic. I've always wanted to come here. But what is the protest going to be?
Shh! I'd rather you didn't shout about it.
Sorry.
Anyway, if I knew the details, I would have told you by now. But I don't know. My job is just to video whatever happens with my phone and then post the clip on YouTube.
Okay. So it's the centre court. Wow! Great tickets.
My dad got them.
Really? But of course he doesn't know.
No, of course not. If I'd told him why I need to be here...
We wouldn't be here.
Exactly. Now, let's find our seats. If we're late, I won't be able to film it.
Part 3.
It should have happened by now. It's nearly 2 o'clock. Something's gone wrong.
Well, you can't blame me this time. I can't have told anyone. I still don't know.
Shh. I'm not blaming you. I'm just worried.
Can't you text them?
I've tried. Nobody's replying. They must have turned their phones off.
Look over there. There are a lot of police officers.
It looks like they're taking some people away.
Hey, there's Spiky. He's chatting to one of the police officers. He's acting as if he were best friends with them.
That's weird. He's always said that he hates the police.
Part 4.
Don't you want to go home?
Back to the squad. Not until I know what's happening.
Hey, look. There's something on the news about it.
Protesters plan to run onto Centre Court and hold up a large banner protesting against Wesley's supermarket. They were arrested before they could carry out the protest after police were informed of their plans. In other news today, the government's plan...
Look, I've got a text at last. No! That's terrible!
What? Tell me.
It was Spiky who gave all the details to the police. He was a police officer all along, just pretending to be one of us.
A kind of spy?
Yes! I never imagined it. Oh, he seemed so passionate about our campaigns.
Oh, well, it just shows how easy it is to make mistakes about people.
Part 5.
Oh, hi. Come in.
Hey, this is a bit better than your other place.
You mean the squat? Yes. I didn't really want to stay there. None of us did. I mean, we felt so angry. Spiky was so disloyal and deceitful.
I know. So, you're back home with your parents. How are you getting on with your dad?
Oh, okay. We still argue a bit, but it's mostly good-humoured.
And I imagine the food is better than at the squat?
Yes, it is. Would you like to stay for dinner?
Well, I was going to suggest going out.
Yeah, actually, that's a better idea. Where shall we go?
Do you like Chinese?
I love it.
There's a new Chinese restaurant quite near here. I went there last week. It's really good.
Okay, let's go there. And you can tell me all about your day and